You spent time with Michael Thurmond.
Yes, I was a little outside of Athens. I was at the Northeast Georgia Food Bank watching Michael Thurmond speak to the leaders there, speak to some voters. All of these people are just trotting all over the state. He had been at the National Prayer Breakfast that morning. He was going over to Doraville later in the day. But I wanted to catch up with Thurmond because as I'm talking to voters around the state about the Democratic side, a lot of the other candidates who are not Michael Thurmond have significant drawbacks for some people. Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, her tenure as mayor for some people, Jeff Duncan, the fact that he was a Republican until very, very recently and passed a lot of legislation that was not agreeable to them. Jason Estevez just hasn't popped yet. And so to me, Thurmond felt like somebody to really go see in action and see what he's doing. And he's very confident, really hoping, though, to get into that second place. Keisha Lance Bottoms is just running away with this thing. And for all of these other candidates, it is just that race for second place. It's just to get into overtime against Keisha Lance Bottoms, make it a one-on-one, and have it be almost a referendum on Mayor Bottoms and have themselves be the alternative.
And Thurmond is trying to edge into second place in part with this new strategy that he unveiled at the last debate, the Atlanta Press Club debate, where he talks about cutting the state sales tax in half, shaving that by about 2%. That's been a big part of his platform. He has been sort of forever, for years and years now. Of course, he's the former state labor commissioner, former DeKalb superintendent, former DeKalb CEO. He has decades of public policy experience, but he's been always the sort of voice in the Democratic Party saying that the party needs to reach to the middle. They can't ignore the middle of the electorate or else they'll lose in statewide races.
Yeah, so politically, he wants Democrats to reach out to the middle. His tone is different from some other candidates. He is not hyper-partisan. He is a Democrat, of course, but talks about working with Republicans, including Republicans in a potential administration. And this income tax piece, or rather the sales tax piece, is contrasted with all of the efforts in the legislature this year to cut the income tax, even eliminate the income tax if Bart Jones had his way, to eliminate potentially the homestead exemption, which is what the state house wanted to do. Thurmond said, look, all of those tax cuts matter, but they matter more for people who are wealthier. If you're at the lower end of the income bracket, you're spending a ton on sales taxes. A big chunk of your income just goes to sales taxes. You're not going to have a big windfall from an income tax or a property tax, but for sales tax, they would feel that every single day. That's his pitch for affordability. I'm like, how in the world would you cut the sales tax and have? He said, we do it the same way you do with income taxes and property taxes. Like, the budget is there. You just have to choose your priorities.
Now, his strengths, of course, are that he served a long time in public office. That's also can be a weakness. Not as much on the Democratic side as the Republican side. There's less of an outsider push on the Democratic side as the GOP side. But also, that he served in the bluest and most important county for Democrats in Georgia, the biggest bastion of Democratic votes, which is DeKalb County. It's always been a linchpin of the Democratic strategy in Georgia. So, I think his strategists hope that if he can just run up the score in DeKalb County, that could give him enough heft to get into that second place spot and prevent Keisha Lance Bottoms from winning this outright. She's been at 30s and 40s-ish, low 40s to high 30s in most of the polls. It's interesting because Michael Thurmond, in the AJC poll at least, hasn't really moved at all. He's always been about 10%. The only real movement we've seen, actually, the big movement, and it's not huge, but was from Jason Estevez, who went from about 3% to about 8% in the last AJC poll. So nearly tripling, but still going from a very small base to still single digits, but feels like he's within striking distance.
Yeah, and it also puts him very much within striking distance of Michael Thurmond. There's not a big gulf between 8% and 12% once you factor in the margin of error. They could be essentially tied. And so Estevez has started putting a lot more money down. He's started running ads. So I think that's his effort. He's rolled out very high-profile endorsements, and he's really working again to get into that second place. He has simply not had the name ID or the money to put himself out there in a big way. But that growth in the AJC poll, I think, is really meaningful.